Well, I'm not trying to hold forth for the British Prime Minister. I didn't get to see that statement. But I would say, for instance, when these two people were arrested, I think they were arrested somewhere in Abuja, the suspects who were arrested, if those people constituted the camp that the British Prime Minister was talking about, that's another kettle of fish. But my question will be, how does this affect our chances of getting a permanent UN seat? That has been dangled as a bait for a very long time, and we seem to be making some progress towards it. But now it seems with this new terrorism challenge we're going to have to face, isn't that far away from us now?
Well, I wouldn't think so. You see, as I've said earlier on, we look at different factors in making our observations, and conclusions. Let me give you one dynamic that will prevent those who are likely to work against us not to do so. It's a question of application of the principle of reciprocity. You do not have to be a superpower before you apply the simple principle of reciprocity. Those who are likely to say, look, we will not consider Nigeria, they have their economic interests vested very much in Nigeria. As I said earlier on, that we are a big market. Okay. Let us take the case of, let's take France, for instance. France has very close special relationship with many Francophone countries. Take ECOWAS. The volume of trade between Nigeria and France is more than the volume of trade between France and the totality of Francophone West Africa. Nigeria is developing a special partnership with France. Nigeria has strategic relationship with the US and the United Kingdom. These are permanent members. They will need to weigh the future of their partnership with Nigeria, all right, in deciding whether or not Nigeria should be a member or a permanent member. Secondly, there is one critical factor. It is not going to be basically the developed world, the P5, that will decide, although their position is very critical, since there is need for consensus of the P5 in finally approving whatever condition. The issue, the politics as of today, is that whichever country is sponsored by Africa, especially following the Ezewini consensus, they will be glad to take such country. So it's not going to be a function of the situation in Nigeria. More significantly, insecurity as a result of this bombing cannot be a valid issue. America is a victim of terrorist acts on daily basis. All right? The British are, the French are, the Germans are. It's happening all over the world.
Okay, but
so is that the best way to go about it? Because when it happened, well, we saw our president. I think he spoke just the same way you just analyzed it. That, well, it's a global affair. We're not immune to it. So, but loads of people have taken that particular talk just the way you just analyzed it, and they have kind of faulted it and say that's not the way to go about it.
No, you see, you are right. But the issue is this. There is a war you prepare. There is a war you do not prepare for but imposed on you. So when war is carried to your doorstep, unprepared for, what do? Nobody is saying that terrorism is a good thing. Not at all. The issue is this. The moment those who are funding, aiding and abetting terrorists, Boko Haram, all of them, you will now know that, look, the way Nigeria is being presented will be changed immediately. Okay. We are now getting to the point where people now believe that, look, the government must deal decisively with all this.
But God yes. forbid, failing that, what happens? Assuming we just make plenty of noise, hula baloo, we'll fire that, we've done this, and yet we don't make headway. God forbid a worse attack happens. What happens? Because when all of these predictions happen, and then attacks like this begin to happen in the Federal Capital Territory, then don't you think that we're getting farther away from our goal than we ever close to it?
Your position implies that, yes, all these predictions are meant to allow for the worst scenario to happen. No, they are just a guide to warn. They are warning. And the moment you take into account the warning, the worst scenario cannot happen. You see, the beauty of it all is that scientific analysis points to the fact that by 2015, it may be like this. Now, if you do not do anything about that, and that is where I agree with you, then in that case, the worst scenario can occur. But I still believe that all those dynamics are not good enough. They do not reflect how the Nigerians behave. They don't. You see, we need further research to seek understanding, you know, of the Nigerian mania of handling things. They always talk about Nigerian factor, but we've not succeeded in knowing the content of this Nigerian factor.